on Friday. Charles, let's come back to you and policing in the UK.
Come under a great deal of scrutiny over the last few weeks for very obvious reasons. There's been some chatter about the effect, I suppose, that either this or other factors have had on police figures in particular. So I thought we'd just go back and have a look at the updated statistics now from the police workforce document last updated in July of this year. And really, the main thing to draw your attention to there with the red arrow on the right is that the number of people joining police has dipped significantly over the past year. And of course, this is significant because the next graph shows that the number of people leaving police has remained very high. So just a few more points to draw out of that, which is that the overall rate of leaving is just over 6%. The voluntary resignation rate is at 3.5%, which is a record high. 43% of people leaving have had less than 5 years of service in police, which is significant. And they say that 90.4% are in frontline roles. Now, I would just make a clarification there that frontline does include, or rather, I think that gives people the impression that those are police on the streets in uniform. That is absolutely not the case. Frontline includes an awful lot of desk-bound roles that are within the overall capacity of police to investigate. So, for example, the staffing of a custody block, or indeed a CID or sexual offences team or something like that would still be considered frontline, but they are certainly not going to be out on the streets unless there is an absolute crisis. 4.8 decrease in local policing, again significant. But of course, here we go, two record highs here, 35.5% female and 8.4% ethnic minority. They describe as being record high figures. But what I want to come on to is the 4% long-term absent, which again is a very high number. And so the question is really, what sort of person are we recruiting into police now, or at least are hanging around for any great degree of time? I've got a short video just to ask that question a little bit further as to the type of person that we should expect to be policed by.
This is your warning. If it continues, you will be arrested. Okay? One more time, that's it.
I've got to do it.
Hey?
You might as well, come on then.
One more time.
Go on, arrest me.
Hey?
Arrest me. Go on.
2023, select this lady with the red.
Arrested for tooting your horn.
Right, you're arrested for 64 in from the corner.
Now, that might seem like a rather silly example of modern day policing, and it might not have been audible, but essentially that policeman had told the lady with the horn that if she did it again, she would be arrested. And of course, she did it again, and she was indeed arrested. Now, that's ludicrous for several reasons, not least because either the threshold for an arrest has been met or it hasn't. So this is not, you can't excuse this by just saying that he's exercising discretion. Further, on a noise level, I mean, the reason you couldn't hear any speech is because there was somebody using a chainsaw in the background. To suggest that a small plastic horn could in some way be sort of overpowering a chainsaw is, of course, ludicrous. But specifically, he arrested her under Section 4A of the Public Order Act 1986, which is to cause harassment, alarm, and anxiety with intent. So we will just look at the specific text from the CPS website explaining how this works. And they say that it's important to prove that the defendant's intent is not enough. So first of all, was the lady with the horn actually trying to call harassment, alarm, or distress? There must also be evidence of somebody, which might not be the person targeted, suffering actual harassment, alarm, or distress as a result. And they go on to say this evidence could come from that person themselves, or it could come from another witness who can say that the person displayed signs of harassment, alarm, or distress. As the effect on the victim is an essential element of the offence, prosecutors should not presume that it had the effect, but should seek evidence which is capable of proving it. Now, I don't want to overanalyze a 30-second clip of a ridiculous incident on the internet, but it does speak volumes that policeman quite clearly was assuming himself to be the victim of such intent. So first of all, was the intent there? And really, as somebody that deals with this stuff day in, day out, why on earth would something like that be considered an offence? How could that possibly be the case? So we've got that at one end of the spectrum, and then of course we go further on and we look at the other sorts of things that are being brought out at the minute. The Home Office just announcing that there's now, it's not really an amnesty. I would say that this is actually an intelligence gathering exercise. They are changing the law around what are called zombie knives, which are effectively 8-inch blades with ancillary bits on them, and essentially horrid bits of kit, machetes as well. And what they're saying is that these things can be handed in from between the 26th of August and the 23rd of September. But of course, in order to do that and to receive compensation, you have to fill in forms. Therefore, you are in effect identifying and incriminating yourself if you choose that path. So that's one thing to look at. The other thing I just want to have a very quick look at is a video from Enfield last night.
Was so right. So right. Was so right. They killed him. Call the police. Call the police. Give me my phone. Give me my phone. Give me my phone. Let me call the police. He's dead. He's running. He's running. Call the police. Call the police. Call the police. Call the police. I need to record it. Cool. He ran out. What have you done? Call the police.
Now, there are two reasons for showing that. First of all, one is to illustrate the sense of lawlessness. If you couldn't see that clip, and it was indistinct, but there were gunshots being fired on a residential street late at night, being filmed by a member of the public. Now, the issue with the filming of the member of the public is that at times during her commentary, she said things that were factually inaccurate, such as, "he's dead." Now, the reason I highlight that is that under the provisions of the Online Safety Act 2023, we've seen that people who put these things out on social media can become targets of this legislation. And the way in which it's being manipulated is absolutely reprehensible. So this is just something to be aware of. I spoke a couple of weeks ago about David Clues of the UNN Unity News Network, who I have recorded a conversation with, and I will put that out and give further details in due course. But really, it's a quick sort of snapshot summary of some of the dire sort of situations within which police are becoming embroiled and involved at the moment.
Charles, thank you for